Next speaker I am delighted to introduce is Stephan Joerchel. Stephan has been Secretary of the Dachverband Lehm EV German Association of Building with Earth since 2006 and a member of a wide range of work groups and projects on behalf of the German Association of Earthbuilding, including DIN standards. Further education, product declarations. He is an advisor on many international projects and a lecturer of ecological building and building with earth. He has been managing workshops and fairs since 1998. And since 2015, he has lectured in sustainable and earth building at the Anhalt University of Applied Science. And I have to say, I remember Stephan from Lehm 2000, which was my first ever earth building conference. And then shortly after that, he was very kind to help advise us on one of our first earth projects here in Scotland. So it is with great pleasure that I will hand over to Stephan, who will talk to us about our aesthetics are a useful driver for designers. Stephan.
Okay. Thank you, Tom, at first, and all the organizers at EUPACI and hosting this impressive conference, I think we can say. And thank you, of course, for invitation. And I just start my screen sharing, and we will get it done. So I think it will work, and you can see it now. So as Tom said, we will talk now about aesthetics and if it can be a useful driver for designers, especially in terms of architecture and building design. And the subtitle is Perception of Earth Building Objects, Approaches to Introduce Earth Building on a Wider Scale, because this is the main topic of the event today, I think, to introduce earth building on a wider scale in Germany, or not only in Germany, in Europe and worldwide. So, and I will just point out how the aesthetics deal with that. At first, of course, I think everybody will agree with that opinion that the most obvious earth building technique is this rammed earth, especially if it's done for aesthetics, like this wall here in the chapel of worship in Suhl, in a hospital, in a clinic. And of course, this is the first, or the most obvious attraction of surfaces of earthen building materials. And I think it's just because it's so in contrast to the common architectural view, that's why so many are impressed by that. When I start my lectures with the students of architecture, and then often they just say, of course, we know about earth building, we know all these rammed earth buildings, and it's interesting that they focus most of these obvious earth buildings. But of course, this is not the only technique and the only point we can call earth buildings. So it also can appear in this way, like this family hotel here in Weimar, Germany, which is just made by ecological building materials, massive wooden construction, and wall heatings included there in the plaster. And nobody who do not know about the building itself would not expect that this is just made by earth plaster, or would just not think about it. But even this is a modern earth building, and it can be a good example for good aesthetics used by using earth building materials. So that's why the aesthetics can be a kind of door opener for earth building materials in building design or in the market itself. As I think everybody who's involved in this earth building market would agree with that we need a door opener for more brighter scale of users and of the market itself, the building market, and therefore aesthetics are really important. But we have to use it also to get more in touch with other properties of earth building and not to reduce it to this aesthetics. So there, for example, could be possible that somebody just decides to use earth plaster, not because of the material, but of the texture, like it is told about this impressive object or project in Cologne in Germany, where this star architect Peter Zumthor was just asking the craftsmen to make plaster samples there, and they made all the samples from the common materials, and he did not agree with anything of that. And then he said, "Is there not another possibility?" And just one plasterer came and said, "Oh, I can try and make you an earth plaster sample." And finally, he agrees with that, and not because of the color or because it's earth. It just was a decision because of this haptic quality of the texture. And even that can work to get an open door or to get introduced into the market. So it's not only that must be obvious as the rammed earth technique, can also be other kind like this short story is telling. Or you can see somehow this not the same case, but the reason to use it was in the Vorarlberg Museum in Austria, where you also would not expect to have earth plaster here in this a few thousand square meters, but it's just used to minimize the technical ventilation need, to just use this properties of earth plaster to take the humidity in a certain level, to hold it in a certain level. And this is a fine example, I think, for the combination of the aesthetics and the low-tech properties of earth plaster. And you can also combine both of that without any difficulties. Of course, there are another approaches, like everybody knows about this traditional approaches, or we just call it the vernacular approach. There are, in the recent years, there are some interesting publications about that, like this learning from vernacular. Maybe you know about this, which was collected for an exhibition, and also others. And you can see here, as I line out in the top, we have to, if we want to cover more potential of the earth building material, we have to include also other approaches. And you can see here just two examples of UNESCO World Heritage, which is made by earth plaster or earth building materials itself. And I think it's a good example, or both of them are good examples for renovation or modernization of existing buildings in a really ambitious manner. And all this is just made by us and can be a good example for aesthetics and for the function of aesthetics as a reason to build with earth. But of course, there are also the health-related approach that is somehow driven by the building biological scene, that some scientists and other craftsmen really decide to take the earth plaster or the earth building material just for keeping this healthy indoor climate, the comfortable indoor climate, and also buffering the humidity in a really comfort level. And just by using this earth plaster also as an aesthetics issue, as you can see here, you can choose any color you like and also have this property of buffering the humidity. So this is also, I think, a good example for combining both of these approaches. And of course, there are other approaches like the functional and physical aspect. If you think about the quality in terms of climate adapted design and low-tech building concepts, clay is really has a high quality and good properties to use it for that issues, because it's just buffering the temperature and the humidity in the objects, and you can also design it somehow in any way you like. You can plaster it with just one color, or you can make it really colorful, and the texture can vary from just a really even surface to this rammed earth surface. So even this functional and physical aspect is important, but of course this is also not such a obvious aspect like this aesthetics I have explained in the beginning. And also this functional and physical aspect can cover renovation projects. Of course, there are so many examples which the users usually may not accept or expect to be made by clay plaster. Like this example here is just 6,000 square meters of plaster boards, earthen plaster boards or earthen boards in the UN campus in Bonn. Here you can see it's just combined with a conventional supporting structure. This is also an innovative way to combine conventional craftsmanship and the plaster boards made by clay. And if you finish that, can appear like this, that you have this really even and wide surface, and you would not expect that this is maybe earth plaster or whatever. You just don't have to know it. You just feel the comfortable indoor climate, and this functional and physical aspect is really hidden somehow behind the walls. And finally, I want to mention this sustainability approach, which is I would say the most holistic one, because it combines assessing ecological values, like other speakers mentioned before, this UBT or other properties of the material, as well as the health-related quality, and of course the functional aspects and aesthetics. So I would say the sustainability approach is the most scientific one, because it's assessing in all the several sections of assessment the value of earth as a building material in the most holistic way. So I would conclude, or I like to conclude this, that aesthetics is an important aspect of building with earth, as it opens the door for more unknown or hidden quality of earth building to the common building market. So it's somehow, like Oliver mentioned in the beginning, maybe this is the chocolate box. Yeah? Then you have a really impressive aesthetics, then you can open the door, or you can attract somebody to look like, oh, what's that? Well, maybe I can use that, or that's interesting. So maybe we can say this is the chocolate box to come back to this, what Oliver mentioned. So that's why my conclusion is, of course, and I would say, I would really point out that aesthetics are an important aspect of building with earth. But finally, of course, any approach is welcome to work with earth, to respect Mother Earth. So as I try to point out, we have several approaches, and aesthetics is a really important one, but it's not the only one. And any approach is welcome, because we have to save the Mother Earth.
Thank you so much, Stephan. That's great. Thank you very much. And we'll see you back at the Q&A in just a little while.
Okay.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi.
Stephan's gone now, has he?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, I didn't see you pop up in time. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I think that was a great presentation there, Stephan. Raises some interesting questions. It would be good to know, in your experience working with students of design, have their attitudes changed over the time you've been teaching? And
great, I brought him back.
Okay. So I was just going to say, we'll kind of have questions at the end, and do put your questions into the chat. But I was just wondering, Stephan, I'll grab you for a couple of minutes just now. In the time you've been teaching, do you detect a change in the attitudes of design students, or are you still having the same conversations that you were having, 10 years ago?
There's a slightly change because the ecological awareness, of course, is rising more than before. So 10 years or 15 years ago, it depends a little if you have students of architecture or of environmental science, or what maybe you have craftsmen. But if you are working with architects or with designers, they are more and more conscious about this ecological needs and carbon emission needs and stuff. So it's more holistic, the approach from this, but slightly.
And I guess, you know, from my perspective as an architect in Scotland, I can see that in Germany you've got quite a strong, well-organized building culture, both in terms of design and the construction process, that it's well informed and efficient. At least that's the perspective from over here. But it seems to me that you know, over the 20 years since I was at LAME 2000, that there is more and more commonality in European design in buildings, and the issues and the things you're presenting in Germany are more and more seen in other countries as well. Do you see Germany as having a leading role in taking this debate forward, or are you very much from an international perspective?
It's interesting to see this, or to get this international or this perspective from Scotland, from UK. I think, sure, Germany is most developed in terms of rules and standards, because, you know, we are known for that. Everything is standardized in Germany. Even the unstandardized things are regulated as well, you know. But I think, to be honest or make a shortcut, it's really important to have these rules and regulations. Otherwise, we could not be any longer on the building market, because we had no choice to do all these terms, norms and regulations. We had to develop all this to remain on the market and to step into the market. So it was not a decision, a free decision. Somehow we had to do that.
Excellent.
Because of the authorities, you know, they asked for that.
Great. Okay, Stephan, I think I'll let you go now and introduce